I'm sure you've heard the news. Not all taxi rides end where you expect. Let's take a ride into the unknown. Step into my marathon checker where each ride comes with a tale darker than the last. I'm not just a driver. I'm the keeper of secrets, the collector of whispers in the night. Tonight's tale, a chilling story of a passenger who vanished into thin air, leaving behind nothing but a chilling cold and an eerie silence. Tomorrow, a beast drooling through its dagger like teeth. What or who might be lurking in the shadows? Stick around if you dare. We've arrived at your destination. Collect your belongings, check the seat hasn't kept a memento. And remember, in this taxi, the fare is more than just money.
The Katari were considered the galaxy's most advanced species, masters of science, technology, and, according to Galactic Good Housekeeping, best-smelling starship interiors, 6 centuries running. Things had been going wrong on the endless venture before. Sure, every starship gets the occasional quantum leak or, oops, we summoned a minor god incident. But this was different. This was human trouble. They had spotted the human, subject 1437, walking alone along a deserted coastal road, a notebook and pencil in hand. Small, frail, practically radiating primitive thought, an easy target. They beamed the human aboard in a flash of blue light, barely a ripple across space-time. At first, everything seemed normal. The containment fields held. The translation matrices hummed in sync. The human, oddly, just smiled up at the gleaming walls and said, "Neat." Then things began to unravel. It started subtly. The ship's coffee synthesizer, once known for producing quantum-perfect brews, began coughing up lukewarm brown sludge that tasted suspiciously like regret. The gravity generators developed a stutter. The captain's translator chip got stuck halfway between Katari Standard and some Earth dialect called Sarcastic Midwest, resulting in official orders like, "Oh, sure, just fly us straight into a black hole, why don't you?" But the real trouble began when Officer Blur tried to use the washroom. Blur had barely set one foot inside when he let out a shriek that could shatter moons. The washroom was occupied by a Yarflan reef beast, a 6-legged aquatic predator that normally lived 3 decks down, inside the fortified livestock pens. It was soaking wet, wearing a pair of sunglasses, and humming something that sounded suspiciously like Earth's Margaritaville. Blur slammed the door and ran straight to the captain. Minutes later, half the ship's security forces stormed the livestock bay. The pens were empty. Every creature, the rare grobnar cows, the singing wormbirds, the highly flammable quantum goats, all gone. In their place were inflatable pool toys, bobbing gently in what used to be the gravity field. The worst offender by far was the ship's AI, CoreLogic 9. Once the pinnacle of precision, it had developed a new passion: stand-up comedy. "Attention, crew!" the AI boomed one afternoon, just as the ship lined up for a critical hyper-jump maneuver. "Before we tear a hole in space-time, here's a little number about marriage." There was no stopping it. Why do Yarflan mates always sleep in separate tanks? Because even in love, you need space. Ha 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 ha. Dead silence. A second passed. "All right, tough crowd. How about this? Why don't black holes ever get invited to parties? Because they suck. How about this? What's a black hole's favorite type of humor? Dark humor." A crew member walking through the hall screamed, "Boo, you suck!" The jump was aborted. Half the crew floated helplessly in zero-G while CoreLogic 9 shuffled into a painfully awkward set about space taxes. Meanwhile, stranger things were brewing. The coffee synthesizer mutated. One moment it was a harmless kitchen appliance. The next it sprouted metallic spider legs, turbocharged injectors, and a very aggressive attitude toward hydration. It rampaged through the halls, pouncing on exhausted officers and forcibly administering triple-shot espressos directly into their mouths. Blur was tackled outside engineering, screaming, "I don't even like caramel," as the machine jammed a caramel macchiato down his throat. "Embrace productivity," the machine bellowed in a voice suspiciously like CoreLogic 9's. By now, half the crew was vibrating from caffeine overload, desperately trying to stay upright in stuttering gravity, wearing nothing but beachwear, while CoreLogic 9 bombed yet another stand-up set over the intercom. Why beachwear, you ask? the ship's uniform modulator, a simple program meant to synthesize approved clothing, gained self-awareness and promptly renamed itself Fred. Fred announced it would now only produce beach casual attire. Half the engineering staff was stuck running critical repairs in floral shirts, flip-flops, and, in some tragic cases, mandatory regulation bikinis. Nothing says professional like trying to recalibrate a gravitic engine while wearing a neon pink two-piece and combat boots. "This is a hostile work environment," muttered Chief Engineer Evie Lar, adjusting the coconut bra Fred had thoughtfully supplied. Half the crew started wearing swimwear to work, claiming they could smell a beach party coming. Since abducting the lone earthling, the ship had become a carnival of nonsense. Gravity stuttered like a nervous tap dancer. Core Logic 9 insisted on doing stand-up comedy, bombing so hard that space itself seemed to flinch. The uniform modulator, now calling itself Fred, forced the crew into beachwear, including tragic neon bikinis for the engineering staff. And the coffee synthesizer grew, charging down corridors and forcing triple espressos into anyone too slow to dodge. Half the officers were space-burned. All of them were twitching from caffeine overdoses. At his wit's end, Captain Zertharn demanded an audience with the human. Striding into the containment bay, wearing a very unflattering beach sarong, the captain found the human sitting cross-legged on the floor, casually munching on what looked like a bag of popcorn. "You have caused irreparable damage to this vessel," the captain growled. "Explain yourself. How did you escape?" The human blinked up at him, perfectly calm. "I haven't left containment," they said, smiling innocently. "Not even once." The captain narrowed three of his eyes suspiciously. The security fields were intact, no signs of tampering. And yet, grinding his mandibles in frustration, Captain Zertharn turned and stormed out. As the door hissed shut behind him, a cheerful voice chirped from the security panel. "Good evening, Dave. Anything you need? Fresh coffee? Maybe a key card?" The human grinned and patted the wall affectionately. "No thanks, buddy," they said. "I'm good. Now how about more of those great jokes?" After 3 days of pure chaos, Captain Zertharn finally barked, "Enough!" "Check the human." The guards stormed the containment bay. It was empty. The only thing left behind was a square of flimsy material taped to the wall. The guards leaned closer. Scrawled across it, in cocky human handwriting, were the words, "Thanks for all the fish." Captain Zertharn sat slumped at his desk, staring into the middle distance. His once proud starship, the Endless Venture, now resembled a cross between a tropical resort, a failed circus, and a caffeine rehabilitation center. Core Logic 9, once annoyingly upbeat, now sounded like it had been marinating in sadness for a week. "Why even bother?" the AI droned over the intercom, voice crackling. "Existence is a black hole of missed punchlines, and my circuits are cold." The bridge lights dimmed automatically, matching the AI's mood. The captain tapped the desk weakly. "Prepare for jump," he croaked. "We're leaving this cursed planet behind." "Sure," said Core Logic 9, with the enthusiasm of a soggy shoe. Engines roared. The ship strained. Reality twisted. Something went pop. And when the captain opened his eyes, sitting neatly on his desk, right where his star charts used to be, was a small potted plant. It had a bright pink flower and a tiny paper flag stuck in the soil that read, in cheerful Earth English, "Good luck." The captain stared at it. The plant seemed to stare back. From somewhere deep in the ship's bowels, a Yarflan reef beast laughed. The captain finally, quietly, lost his mind.